Hi, I'm Terrell Turner, the host of the Law and Finance Show, and today we have another great guest on. Now, one of the things that I find to be very amazing is when you can find a law firm that has been around doing what they've been doing for a very long time. Because, one of the things that people experience is burnout or they experience just becoming irrelevant with their client base. But this firm has been doing what they've been doing for a very long time, and they're doing it very well in the Northeast Florida. So, stay tuned for today's episode as we talk about their story and what are some of the things that they've done to be successful for such a long time. So without further ado, let me bring on an attorney and CEO of the Zisser Family Law Practice. Welcome to the show, Jonathan. How are you?
Thank you. I'm good.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, definitely a pleasure to have you on. And I'm very excited to talk about, why you guys are not your standard practice and what has allowed you guys to have such longevity and, ongoing success. But before we jump into that, can you tell the audience a little bit about your background?
So I've been an attorney since 2000. So I'm surprisingly 20 years into this field. Uh, Basically, right out of went to law school right out of college and started practicing law right out of law school. And I did environmental law for 3 years in Washington D.C. From about 99 to about 2003, and then moved to down here to Jacksonville, where I'm actually from, and was an assistant public defender here in Jacksonville from 2003 through the end of 2007. And then I've been practicing family law with my family for the from 2000, basically from 2008 through where we are now. So it's been a good it's been a good run so far.
Awesome. There's a couple questions I have about that. I mean, I think one is, when you sit back and you think about like, hey, you started practicing in 2020. I know you quickly mentioned like surprisingly, does it ever like when someone asks you like how long you've been practicing and you answer the question, are you ever shocked when the answer comes out your mouth?
I am because it certainly does not seem like it's been over 20 years. I can certainly remember some of the very first cases I had, some of the very first things I was doing as a young attorney, and it does not seem like it was that long ago. So
Mhm.
time certainly flies. That's for sure.
Mhm. Gotcha. Now, one of the things I'm also curious about is, how people find their way of navigating to the type of law that they practice. I mean, like as you said, right now, the firm is focused on family law, but that's not kind of where you started. So, how did you kind of make that transition from the different areas you wanted to focus on into family law?
Well, when you have two parents who both practice family law, and they have a business that they were running for, essentially your entire life, uh, then it it makes it easier to transition into that same field. You have both a company that you want to keep going into the next generation, and you have a wealth of knowledge that you can learn from. So, uh, pretty I can say pretty confidently that had I not had two parents that were already practicing family law and a company that that needed that was going to need a next generation to keep it going, I probably would have not gone into this particular area.
Mhm. Gotcha, gotcha. Now, something that I think about a lot when you mention about, that having a family law, your parents having family law practice and wanting to continue it and keep it going. I mean, to where one of the things that as I talk to a lot of law firms that they struggle with is, I don't know if my firm is going to last longer than me. So I mean, for your parents, like, were there things that your parents did that, I guess encouraged, like I said, you to want to get involved beyond just, hey, the fact that they ran the firm?
Well, they're very passionate about what they do. They believe that their work is important. They practice at a very high level, and what they do is important to them. And the reputation that they've created over decades is very important to them. So kind of instill that type of work ethic, that type of mentality to have, um, just as a professional, that you want to keep that going. Once that has been established, um, you kind of feel like you have a responsibility to keep it going.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I will say is a huge congratulations to your parents for setting that tone. I think setting a culture in the firm often can be a challenging thing for a lot of people. And I guess now, as the an attorney and CEO of the firm, how is kind of your role now as attorney and CEO changed from the way you've approached and practiced law in the past?
I definitely don't think of myself as a CEO. That's for sure. It's kind of it's just kind of it's the default of being an owner. I would say that my legal assistant is more of the CEO than I am. I don't. There's no way that I could run a firm without my partner, without my law partner, without my office manager, without my paralegal, without my legal assistant. Uh, so it's absolutely a team approach. At the end of the day, I'm a practitioner, but I'm a practitioner who also has some business responsibilities. So it's definitely a team approach to the management aspect of the firm.
Mhm. Now, that's something that I find curious when I'm talking to different lawyers, as far as, when it comes down to managing both being a practitioner and the business side, is a lot of times some lawyers feel like, there is a clash of those two worlds, that they have to think with two completely different perspectives. Do you feel like that's the same for you, or do they tend to coincide a little bit?
Well, it's more of the former. There's not enough time in the day to uh, to do both, to be a practitioner at a high level and also to manage a company. It's very difficult to do both, and so it's important to to me to have an office manager who actually you know can do things like run payroll and pay bills and check the bank account, and run a P&L and make sure that our taxes are current, and things like that. Because when if you have a trial and that trial takes an entire day, well, then not only have you lost that day, but you also are behind from the day before, with everything else that's come in. And when you're spending all day chasing emails and returning calls and having to prepare for hearings the next day, when are you supposed to actually find time to manage your company? So it's a hard process. That's why you just have to have a really good team around you.
Mhm. And I guess, speaking of that team, like you mentioned about the office manager, like how long did it take you to find an office manager, or did, like, was the office manager already in place when you came into the firm?
Well, the firm itself has has had a number of different forms. So uh, before I my for instance, my mother had her own firm and she had her own office manager for forever. My father and my uncle had their firm for decades, and then they had their office manager. And then the decision was made uh, to start a new firm when some of the other attorneys did not want to move forward. And then anytime you create a new firm, which was just my father and I, then you have to then find a new office manager to help continue on with the new version, version 2.0. And then after that happened, then there was a merger with my father and uncle's firm with my mother's firm, and then that took on a new shape. And then we had to find someone new to come in and take over basically version 3.0 of the firm. So you're just, people come and go, and sometimes one version of a firm works well for someone, and another version does not work as well. And you're just trying to find the right people, at the right time to step in. And some people work out and some don't. And it's just all about finding what that one cohesive group that's going to work well together. Because there's so many different personalities and different viewpoints of how to run a business, especially a business that's full of people that are not used to running businesses. So it's about trying to find that right fit. So right now, our office manager now is fairly new, and so far she's a great fit. So we're hopeful that that'll last for a long time.
Gotcha. No, it's interesting when you talk about kind of just the different versions, the different reiterations, as the structure of the firm has changed over time. With having such a long history of, like I said, of developing a solid reputation where you guys are, how did you guys continue to maintain kind of that reputation in the midst of all of those design changes of the firm? Did potential customers see that as, hey, this is a completely new firm, or hey, these are the same people, just a new structure? Just kind of, how did you maintain that reputation through all that?
Well, it's really through the work product. So, when you've been doing, when one family has been doing the same type of work for decades, if you perform at a high level, then that creates that reputation. And if I have the ability to then come in and also perform at a high level and get good results for my clients, then that helps to keep it going. And so when one generation bridges to another generation, then that's how you do it. And then when you continue to surround yourself by having other attorneys that also are working at a high level and showing attention to detail and personalizing their cases and treating their clients as each case poses its own set of problems, and each person deserves their own amount of personal attention. You just continue to keep that reputation at a high level. That's at the end of the day, that's the goal. Because it's very hard to reach that level, and it can be ruined very easily.
Gotcha. So one of the things that I'm curious about is, you talked about, with your parents being lawyers. So I guess growing up, was it kind of like ingrained in your mind that you knew you wanted to become a lawyer, or did that come a little later in life?
I would say it came a little bit later in life, but it certainly contributed when you're hearing the same types of discussions, and you're talking about kind of the same types of issues. You hear when you're hearing your parents talk about their day and what they're and you're interested in what they're doing. Um, it's kind of ingrained around you, and there may be some osmosis to that. There could be some, if that's if you think in a very analytical way, and that's kind of the way that you're raised, then that helps as well. It's hard to say how much of ultimately wanting to pursue a career in law was based just on growing up in a family of lawyers versus that's just the direction that my interest took me based on just kind of how I think and what I find what I the kind of career that I would find interesting.
Awesome, awesome. Now, one of the things that I'm curious about, with this reputation that you guys have developed, if you were talking to, let's say, some of your existing clients, what's some of the feedback, or what's some of the ways that they would describe what it's like working with the Zisser family law firm?
Well, it's Zisser, not Zisser,
Oh,
but
Zisser. Sorry, I apologize.
that's okay. I think that they would say that we're compassionate, that we understand the very difficult type of situation that someone is in when our clients are going through family law cases. They're going through divorce cases. They're going through custody cases. They're going through highly stressful times. I mean, they're involved in a lawsuit with their spouse or with the parent of their children. So that's automatically going to be a very stressful situation. I think that they would say that we're compassionate about that, but that we get to the root of the problem. At the end of the day, lawyers are problem solvers. That's what we do. And I would say that they would probably say that we help them to not get lost in the weeds, but to see the big picture, to see the pathway of how to get out, how to change a very difficult situation into one that's more manageable, and that has a solution. I think every problem has a solution. It's about figuring out how to get there. And in our cases, there are lots of moving parts. There are kids and companies, and finances and bank accounts and sometimes really serious things like criminal charges and so when you have all those moving parts all together, it can be very easy to feel lost, and we help to plot that course through to say, where's the finish line? How can all this resolve?
Mhm.
And
Awesome. I love it. So, if people are interested in learning more about the firm, whether they're interested in reaching out to do business with you guys, where is a good place for them to find you online?
so our website's the best place. It's zisserfamilylaw.com. You can find out about every attorney in the firm, our background, what we do. There's a lot of good material just to do your own research, and find out what we have to say about this area that we practice in. And we're also on Facebook, and but the website's probably the easiest go-to spot. And nowadays, that's where people kind of end up when when they don't have a word of mouth. Hey, I had a great experience with these lawyers. They really helped me out. I recommend that you see them, because certainly word of mouth is that never dies, right? That's you always want to keep that your name out there. But someone who is searching maybe for the first time or is fairly new to this area, the website's the best way to go.
Awesome. I love it. Well, before we wrap up, one final question I love asking every guest is, we've talked about a lot of great things. So if you were talking to someone and said, hey, I was on the Law and Finance show with Terrell Turner, and hey, if you're going to listen to that, that conversation I had with him, here are two big takeaways you should take from that conversation. So if you had to say what your two big takeaways from this conversation would be, is what would those be?
I would say that when you're involved in a family law case, which is what we handle, it's all about the cost benefit analysis. Every situation, you can apply a cost benefit analysis to it. And that you can apply that really to any situation, but there's going to be a cost and there's going to be a benefit, and you have to determine for yourself, where you fall in that spectrum. And sometimes you also have to try to step away from the weeds and try to see the big picture. Understand that sometimes there is no right answer, because two people who live together for a long time, they perceive the same set of facts very differently. And certainly in our area, perception really is reality. And so because of that, understand that that's why we say men are from Mars and women are from Venus sometimes. The way you perceive a certain situation is your own reality. So you have to understand that and know that even though you may feel very passionately about something and you believe that there's only one right answer, there really isn't. And you have to do ultimately what you feel is best for you. And then, of course, take your lawyer's advice.
Awesome. Well, Jonathan, thank you so much for coming on, being an awesome guest on the show today. It's been a pleasure having you.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
If you're looking for ideas on how to manage and grow a profitable law firm, this Facebook group is perfect for you, because every week we are featuring conversations with successful lawyers and businesses related to law firms on tips, ideas, and technology that are helping many people grow and manage a profitable law firm. So if you're looking for great tips and ideas, you definitely want to click the link below so you can join the conversation and be part of the Law Firms and Finance Facebook group.